Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today I want to talk about fear. Every single one of us lives in an environment where we are surrounded by news, reports, information, and opinions that all generate fear. It's fear of everything. And as somebody who was forced to face the fears and walk through fear time and time and time again, I will positively tell you, without any question and without any doubt, fears are much bigger monsters than reality. The things you fear, it will probably never occur. What fears actually are attempts at manipulation or your own mind reacting to them, such as a rabbit that just starts running crazily, or a deer that sees these headlights and just stands there looking at the headlights get bigger and bigger. Fear is a paralyzing emotion. It paralyzes you. It stops you from thinking and forces you into action. That is why governments use fear to control. By using fear, they can get people to march off and kill themselves. To get fear, they can get you guys to do things that you normally wouldn't do, such as inject yourself with a concoction that hasn't been properly tested. Fear can cause you to buy things that you don't need. Fear can cause you to make grievous errors in judgment and associations with others. Fear's a manipulative tool, and I think all of you, I don't think there's anybody in the audience that thinks that I'm being facetious about this. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But what isn't obvious is how much fear we're all dealing with. If you're in the West, you should be dealing with an enormous amount of fear. You get in Zero Hedge, or you get in the Drudge Report. All these are serious disinformation venues. These are just, they pump out government narratives and nothing else. Especially Drudge Report. I don't even know how it got taken over. It's all full of fear. All reports about China, for instance, there is not anything in glowing terms or in praise. It was all clouded in fear. As I said again, I'm going to say it again. Fear is a way of making people do things without thinking. And fear, guys, is what the world is running in right now. And that's the danger. Now, guys, using China as an example, China completely eliminated poverty for 98% of its population. I mean, it's gone. Combination of building projects and laws and systems. Did you know that if you farm in China, you pay zero taxes? Did you know that? Not reported in the Western news, of course. Did you know that all these did you have any idea how isolated some of these villages were? I mean, God almighty, you talk about the Himalayas. All these are no longer isolated, and now there's high-speed train access to many of these locations. And Chinese government isn't allowing them to fend for themselves. They're out there helping. Good thing too, huh? When China eliminated poverty within China for a population of 1.4 billion people, keep in mind that America is only 330 million people. China's population is 4 to 5 times larger than America's. And they eliminated poverty. Do you want to know what the American and Western news had to say? What about the cost? That's what they had to say. Type up China, what about the cost? And you will get, and I mean in Google or Bing or you would get, that's the narrative. What about the cost? When in reality, and this is the yin yang, every negative thing that I'm going to call it the empire, the United States empire, puts out, it bangs back to them. Because as much as you may not want to believe it, the fact is the United States is part. The West is part of the globe. It's part of it. It's like this arm is connected to this body. It's part of it. And whenever you throw out negative, the positive has to come back. You can't do things in isolation. And there's this mentality in the United States and in the West that you can do things and that there's no consequences. You just throw the shit out. You throw the shit out. You throw the shit out. Everything that's thrown out comes back. And that's especially true with what's going on. You're seeing inflation, rampant inflation, because of egregious spending of those that control the US dollar. So that means the nations that have the US dollar as a significant portion of their mechanism for finance will experience rampant inflation. Those that do not, such as those that use the ruble or the yuan, aren't having hardly any inflation. There's hardly any inflation in China. Though the United States, it's going ballistic. Why is this? Well, you can look at other things and you can suggest that there is some consciousness behind all of this that's manufacturing this, because everything that the United States has done against China has been boomeranging back spectacularly, whether it's accusations or attempts to destroy the economy. Well, let's look at Russia right now. They tried to destroy the Russian economy. Russian economy is booming. Whose economy is being destroyed? Okay, that's the way the globe works. It's not like there's some secret guy behind a curtain doing things, or you try to do something on China and they're going behind the curtains and doing something. No, it's a physical way the universe works. It's like a wheel. If you take a part of the wheel out, the wheel will still continue to turn. It's just going to go clunk, 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 clunk. Yeah, that's the way it works, guys. So, all this fear is generally You get fear because you don't know something. There's an unknown. Before I went to prison, I was totally enraptured, paralyzed by fear. And other people did all kinds of things to make me afraid of what's going to happen. That's a fact. But reality was not like that at all. When I went to prison, I first went to jail. I thought all kinds of bad things about jail. Jail is kindergarten. You're told where to go, where to sit, where to eat, where to sleep, and you spend a lot of time waiting in a pretty blank room with another person. That's kindergarten. Prison, on the other hand, was pretty bad, but you make friends there. I was in a hard labor prison. I will not lie, it was not fun, but it wasn't the horror that everybody was saying it was. And I wasn't at a Club Med or anything like that. I wasn't at a white collar prison. I mean, I was in a hard labor. I was at Bricky's. People, there ain't nothing good about Bricky's. Ain't nothing good about Bricky's. But even then, as hard as a prison as it wasn't as bad as I feared. Fear is the paralyzer. Governments and other people use that to control you. You have to use your mind to overcome the fears. And the first thing you need to do is turn off, no matter what your addiction is, to those systems that are generating those fears. A lot of times it's the news that's coming in on your computer. Ugh. Well, guys, did you get mad cow? Did your fuel pump explode near you with the dangers of 3G? How about Y2K? Did you all go back to the Stone Age when Y2K hit? What about the brain damage from 5G? Supposedly America's using 5G right now. Is everybody brain dead now? All of these fears are what's stopping you from doing things. Granted, some of the things that you talk about are concerning, but it's blown way out of proportion. The most recent fear generation mechanism is Vax. And it's either going to get me banned for even mentioning it, or get a lot of people irate because I even mention it. But vaccinations are one method that some people use to create fear. They take an aspect of it and they blow it up out of proportion. Don't fall for the fears. Don't fall for the fears. And yeah, there's some concerning information regarding it, but how much do you know is actually true and how much is bullshit? We don't really know, do we? We don't really know. What about margarine? Are you eating margarine? They say margarine is healthier for you. If you eat butter, you're going to get cancer. Really, now we know the facts in the whole matter. It's cheaper to produce margarine than it is to produce butter. And there's higher profit margins on the order of 2 to 3 times the amount than butter. That's why Americans were all told to start using margarine, not butter. Feel manipulated yet? How about that backmasking? Remember what backmasking was? If you play the record album backwards, Satan is talking to you and reprogramming your mind. How's that working out for you, huh? What about communism? The United States is communism causes this, communism causes that, Chinese are going to do this, Chinese are going to do that. People, I'm in China, been in China for 20 some years. Let me tell you something. They don't give a rat's ass what's going on inside of America. They really don't care. They think it's a beautiful location filled with a bunch of crazy people that are very soft with no discipline. But they really don't want to change it. If you want to do things your way, do it your way. It's okay. That's pretty much the reality. I have to ask you, for all these people in the conservative realm that blames communism on everything, I gotta say, I look at the United States, I don't see any elements of communism. None. Zero. I see elements of fascism. I see elements of nationalism, but I don't see any elements of communism. I don't see any groups of people working together. Zero. There is nobody working together in the United States. That's a fundamental aspect of communism. A fundamental aspect of socialism is societies all work together towards the betterment of all. I don't see any of that either. So anybody who's saying, well, communism's destroying the fabric of our country, which is a fear generation mechanism based upon nonsense and based upon ignorance. Remember, people, the technique of fear is to cause an emotional reaction where your mind shuts off and you do as other people say. They say, fire! There's the exit! And everybody runs over there. Fear is not a good thing to have. You need to be able to control your fear. When you watch movies, well, I'm going to use Star Trek as an example, but I'll use another one. And Captain Kirk, the Starship Enterprise, is about to be blown to smithereens by the strange space power. Do you see Captain Kirk running around going, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? No, you don't. You see him calm, like he's on some kind of calm medicine, and goes, Sulu, take us out. Warp 7. We love to watch that. No emotion. Calm. In fact, there's been studies that saying that women really like these stoic men that are calm and under control and not all that emotional. And then they complain when you don't understand me. And with men, it's either all or nothing. You're either emotional or you're calm. If you listen to the tape recordings of pilots as their planes are falling apart around them, they're talking very, very calmly. And they say, well, you know, engine number 1's out, engine number 2's out, engine 3 is burning, and we have enough fuel in engine 4 to take us to crash in that mountain. I'm doing my best. Change the flaps here, and boom. Calm. You need to be able to master the fear mechanism. I think it's fundamental for everyone to be able to master fear. Even if you put a false, fake face on, you have to master fear. You just swallow or gulp. Exhale. Get wide-eyed peripheral vision. And march forward. That's it. There comes a point in your life where you got to take the hits. You'll find that you're expecting a lot of hits, but in reality, there's hardly anything. I have often wondered why it is so damn important for the United States government and the West to run roughshod over the population with such insane levels of propaganda. And it's because that's how it works. That's how they control other people. In fact, I'm arguing that that's how they're controlling the leadership in Finland and Sweden right now. Creating a fear narrative, forcing them into actions that they can use for one reason or the other. That's what I think anyways. Fear is a conditioned response. Over time, it begins as small things and then it increases to the most outrageous. One of the reasons why I was so fearful of asking girls out and doing things with girls was because when I was a young boy, when I was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and I started to talk with girls that I really liked, but you're kind of clumsy, the girls would all band up and their reaction was to make fun of me. After 2 or 3 attempts of me just trying to be friendly, I pretty much gave up because it was painful for me. I'd go up to the girls, I'd try to smile, I'd try to talk to a girl, and the other girls would make fun of me. It was very painful. The only boys that didn't have this effect were ones that had zero empathy. They could not understand the feelings of others. So they would just plow on. They were dense, in other words. The boys in my class that grew up to become adults became very aggressive assholes. They had no care about anybody else. They ended up making money, but just went through women like other people would use toilet paper. They did that with their friends, they did that with their colleagues, they did that with their work relationships. It was this personality. That personality that developed, the ones that got all the girls when I was in middle school and high school, ended up being total assholes. Girls and the women were still attracted to it because they would just go up to the girls and they didn't care what the hell the girl said. They said, I want to have sex with that girl and I'm just going to go date her on a date and I'm going to lie and tell her all kinds of stuff. I'm going to have sex with her, then I'm going to discard her. And that's reality. And you as an adult know that that's the truth. Meanwhile, I just wanted to be a good guy. I just wanted to have friends and I just wanted to do things. And but it was very painful for me. Because every time I'd go up to the girls, sure as shit, they'd make fun. After a while, I didn't want to do it anymore because it was too painful. Fear is a conditioned response. Nuclear explosion in Nagasaki, now we're all afraid of nuclear weapons. I don't want to say that nuclear weapons are not dangerous because they're extraordinarily dangerous and you don't want to use them. But the idea that it's going to cause all end of the life on the world is a big stretch. The idea that radiation is going to last there for trillions and billions and millions of years and not dissipate over time is also a elaborate fear-generating mechanism. It's a way to keep things under a certain level of control by using fear. Fear is dangerous. And fear is how others control you. Now you're being controlled. I know you're being controlled. You know you're being controlled, or maybe you don't want to think you're being controlled. You want to think that you're under control. But look at all the things that's going on right now. Inflation, threat of World War III. If you're an American, the idea that the government is this out of control entity that has zero connection to reality. How many billions of dollars just went to the Ukraine? And how much is going to the domestic needs of the people? You can't even get baby formula in the United States right now. But yet $50 billion is going to this goddamn hole in the ground. What the hell is going on? We must do this or else. And then place fear generation mechanism here. I will expect to see a number of articles that will generate fear shortly afterwards as the voices against this this insane level of outlay get louder and louder, these fear generation mechanisms are going to start popping up, and they're going to get more and more hysterical over time. Everything in the States is a fear generation mechanism. When the BLM started off, a lot of people joined it because, there's a problem that needs to be addressed. And then all of a sudden, a counter effort of the dangers of the BLM started popping around. There's all kinds of stuff. And fear is what's preventing you from doing anything. Now, I think I'm repeating myself, so I don't want to spend too much time repeating myself. But what I do want to say and talk about is the techniques you can use to stop this fear generation mechanism from destroying your life. Number one, while I'm a big believer in preparation, and you should always have a stocked larder and everything, the prep websites have gone off the deep end, painting the worst possible scenarios and the need for going overboard in preparation. I really believe in moderation in all things. Same thing with the shit hit the fan. It's, they're preparing for a zombie apocalypse, and while I agree that you need to have a firearm in case the civil authorities break down, having 50 of them and lifetime supplies of ammo, it's not the way to do that. You have a gun and you're trained to use it, and you're part of the local community and the local militia, and you defend your community. And when people are talking about, oh no, the prices of inflation are going up, instead of running around with your hands in your air, bitching and moaning, you participate and you do something about it. You and your community start saying, look, the cost for us to get gas is too expensive. Let's all band together and make a weekly trip. One person drive every week, and then cart 6 other people to the grocery store where we get groceries together. You start doing alternatives. You come up with solutions. And instead of bitching and moaning, you figure a way of cut down your costs. And that's why I've said over and over again, the important thing is not to prepare for worst case scenarios, but rather to gently alter your lifestyle so you're not so dependent on these systems that the fear mongers, the ones that are trying to generate the fear, want you to fall for. For instance, in the United States and in Australia, they're saying, well, you can't have your own private garden. Why the hell can you not have your own private garden? Why? Well, then they come up with some nonsense excuse. The idea is they want you to be tied to systems that they control. Who are they? They're the government. Who's the government? The government is the elected people. No, it's not. The government is a handful of very, very super wealthy oligarchs, and they are becoming wealthier by the second. That $50 billion going to the Ukraine, almost all of it is going to wealthy oligarchs. And as they become wealthy, as they use up this borrowed money, these trillions of dollars in worth of debt to the U.S., the value of the U.S. dollar is approaching zero. Right now, the value of the U.S. dollar is beneath a penny. It's fractional of a penny, and it's getting smaller every day. The value of the U.S. dollar can hardly buy anything nowadays. And the East, the collective East, China, Russia, India, South America, Africa, are saying, you know what, you're giving me tons of paper, I'm not getting anything for it. Well, but we give you lots of guns and weapons. They're like, I don't care about guns and weapons. Give me gold. Pay me in my currency. Now, if they pay in that currency, I'm going to simplify things here a little bit. to pay in a person's currency, you have to buy that currency. So, for instance, if you're in the United States and you want to use the US dollar in transactions, let's say $100 in transactions, the United States has to buy something $100 worth in yuan. And that transaction, grain, wheat, oil, manufactured products, is converted into yuan. And then from that pool of money, you can say, okay, we can use dollars to buy $100 worth of this. So in the big picture, there's big trade going on. And then you get a little tiny part of it when you order this widget from China. That's the way the system works. In new nations that don't have that, they deal in gold until enough gold has been transferred that there's a reserve, and then you say, okay, I'm going to use the yuan. And what's going on right now is the value of the inflation has been eating into the amount of money for transactions, so that people in the rest of the world are saying, fudge this. Pay us in our currency, pay us in gold, pay us in resources, or you get nothing. Both Russia, China have said, you have looted us, you have taken our resources and given us paper in response. And various elements in the United States and in the West argue that that's not fair and that China and Russia and Asia needs to be punished in some way. Well, we'll sanction it. And as I've said before, and I will repeat again, the world is totally interconnected. You may not want to believe it, but it is interconnected. Sanctioning China, you can sanction Russia, but you sanction China, and you are literally taking a gun and blowing I'm not even going to say your foot off. You're literally blowing your lower torso off. And I'll tell you why.
让我看看你虚伪的眼睛，映衬着什么伤了我的心。绕过你双眼，才透着喘气。说真的，我不怪你，都是你的错，是我想太多才会这么做。别说你难过，别再来安慰我，最来的理由就是你配不上我。眼泪控制了我的思绪，那曾经爱我的你已离我而去。让我看看你虚伪的眼睛，映衬着什么伤了我的心。透过那双眼，才透着喘气。说真的，我不怪你，都是你的错，是我想太多才会这么做。别说你难过，别再来安慰我，最烂的理由就是你配不上我。
不大的黑色记忆，相爱改变不了结局，爱情被撕裂成悲剧，狠狠伤去。忘不了的黑色记忆，我们的爱没有结局，真是逼我选择放弃， 了逃避。
就算眼泪湿过了星空，我的爱情依然没发现。就当做爱情是我的最终。
忘不了
让我看看
的
你虚伪的眼睛，映衬着什么像了我的心，他的双眼，抬头喘气，说真的，
爱情被撕
不是你的错，是我想太多，怎么这么做？别说你的不，别再来安慰我。说真的，我不管你。
忘不了的黑色记忆，我们的爱没有结局，现实逼我选择放弃，选择了逃避。
I've mentioned before that China owns $1 trillion worth of U.S. Treasury bonds and have been buying up property left and right. United States sanctions China. China knows exactly what to do. Consider all, as in all, of American manufacturing is located in China. And the vast majority of the successful income from the sale of consumer products is not in the United States, it's in China. If China reacts to sanctions, that's it. All the big American companies will go bankrupt. General Motors, 60 to 70% of their income comes out of China. You sanction China, China says no more General Motors, nationalizes it. What happens to General Motors, GM, when suddenly it loses 70% of its customer base? What happens to Coca-Cola when it loses 70% of its customer base? What happens to McDonald's when it loses 65% of its customer base? What happens to Starbucks when it loses 80% of its customer base? Well, you say, oh, but I look on a map and it says, that the distribution. I'm not talking about number of retail outlets. I'm talking about profits. Starbucks coffee is much more expensive in China than it is in the United States. So it's not just that they have more stores in China, but they're making much bigger profits. Take that away, these American companies will collapse. Not only that, but then of course, sanctioning China means that America doesn't get anything. No aspirin, no Viagra, no blood pressure pills, nothing. They're all made in China. Oh, we don't need rubber duckies. That's the stupida Americana attitude. Those things are made in places like Vietnam and Indonesia. They're not made in China. China makes the good stuff. China makes the high-tech stuff. Number one trading partner for the top trading partners for China is Japan, Korea, and Germany. Where do you think all the good stuff comes? They're made in China. I know. And the markups the Korean companies, the Japanese companies, the German companies put on there is extraordinary. I could have my factories make you guys stuff that's a fraction of the cost of what you're paying for just to have that little logo on it. And that's the harsh reality. So now the ignorant politicians, because I think they're idiots. I mean, you're going to go on alternative news, alternative news, and everybody's saying that the leadership in the states are idiots. And I got to tell you, I mean, they are truly idiots. They are stupid at a level of imbecile. They actually believe the narratives that they themselves concoct. It's almost as if they're trying to create a reality by changing people's thoughts. Well, things don't work that way. So They're just kind of running in place, jogging in place, treading water. They're not creating reality. So this idea of United States do something and then China will fall through, and of course you've got the crazy ass, wide-eyed, insane, psychopathic neocons that are saying we're going to suppress China one way or the other, and yeah, they're going to do this and that, and the United States will be so butthurt from the result that you guys wouldn't even know what'll happen, and that's precisely why it won't happen. Because these companies, which are all talking and in control of the oligarchs that rule the United States, are telling them, you do that, and I'm going to hold you personally responsible. Big companies talking to oligarchs, starting to say, tone it down, or there's going to be a lot of shit going down. And that's the truth of the matter. It's just, oh guys, that's the truth of the matter. Right now, the level of fear-mongering is outrageous. And as it becomes more and more outrageous, the stakes get higher and higher and higher. Before it was communism's going to domino theory and take over the world. Now it's communism is going to destroy the world. Now it's communism is going to unleash nuclear Armageddon, and Putin is schizophrenic, cancer-ridden madman. That's not true. Xi Jinping is going to collapse because China's going to collapse any day because people are unhappy with Xi Jinping's policies. Look at all the people screaming in Shanghai. The Shanghai screaming is troll farms. That's already been unmasked. People in China, and I'm in China, we all think that the government's doing quite well because the government's looking out for the needs of the people. And nobody in China is saying that COVID is a hoax. They're saying China is looking out for the people. And they don't want anything to do with coronavirus. And you may not like the Chinese attitude. You may think it's foolish. You may think whatever you may think, but that's the way it is. So these fear-mongering efforts, and you see it on the news, are just the same exact fear-mongering that's been used historically. Crossbows can shoot through armor. It's the end of our civilization as we know it. We must fight those deadly Huguenots. Okay. So, fear-mongering is dangerous. So how can you control this fear-mongering? Well, the first thing you need to do is when you look at news, you either turn off the news, but when you do come across news, realize that they are just manufactured narratives. They're not based on any reality. If the report does not name a specific person, rather an expert, an unnamed expert, a scientist, forget about it. If they do name somebody, they have to also name where they work and their contact information. If they don't, that's also bullshit. Anybody can say, John Smith told me that. Susie Q told me that. And then, once you unmasked the sources, then you have to say, okay, who is the source? Well, it's the Epoch Times. Well, the Epoch Times, guys, is a Falun Gong cult that was banned out of China simply because they were stealing money from retired pensioners. Tried to take over the Chinese government using the money that they were stealing off of all these retired people. Know who is causing the fear-mongering and why. You have to understand that. Since this is too much work for the average person, including me, and I'm considering myself average, I normally don't even bother with it. I read it as I look over the attention-grabbing headlines, and I'll scroll over to Zero Hedge. There's one or two articles of value and about 100 full of bullshit, and pick whatever. Vault 7 is alive, guys. Vault 7. Edward Snowden made it very clear. It's not. NSA is not about collecting your data. NSA is about injecting algorithms to control how you view and interpret what is on the internet. They control your mind, Vault 7. That's why you see people who are normally very intelligent behaving very erratically about certain subjects. My brother knows that I'm doing well in China, knows my lifestyle and everything, but he still is repeating, Xi Jinping is an evil person. He is controlling and destroying the lives of other people. Yeah, I suppose, 98% of the people are out of poverty. You can actually see we've got high-speed trains. We don't even use money. We use QR codes, thermal scanning everywhere. It's a very beautiful, clean air. You don't see any contrails in the sky. The roads are clean. There's no graffiti. There's no purple-haired transvestites teaching our kids. None of that stuff, but he's bad. Oh, he's bad because of his history, because he comes from a rich family and everything. That's a George Soros narrative who wants to generate fear. Of any person who's acts as a Rufus for 20 years, volunteers to go to the poorest, most remote, destitute areas and help the people, is somebody and who has spent 20 years of their life helping people for free, is not somebody who is a selfish son of a bitch who wants to destroy the world. Where does this narrative come from? Well, it comes from George Soros, who has spent his entire life raping and pillaging entire societies. Fear-mongering. Don't allow it to get to you.
愁绪罪名地，怎谈残月照剑意？染风雪吹满衣，因一腔诗意。我徒手摘星一串，要尽清欢度人间。托红颜，刷思念，偶得一两遍。念君心迷，千百遍热忱。今年再重逢，又不敢相认。醉叹世，连剑起风，人独自黄昏。看暮色沉沉，眼底晃太深，直到是风雪夜归人。醉一世，十里春风，人年桃花红。人流言痴真，吹不散两人醉往事，心上伤痕。我负愁绪罪名地，怎谈残月照剑意？染风雪吹满衣，因一腔诗意。我徒手摘星一串， 要尽情欢度人间，托红颜说思念，偶得一两天。念君心明，千百遍若真。今年再重逢，又不敢相认。醉叹世人间起风，人独自黄昏。看暮色沉沉，眼底放太深，直到是风雪夜归人。醉一世，十里春风，人言桃花红。人渺阳驰骋，吹不散两人醉往事，心上伤痕。
So the first thing, of course, is turn off the news. The second thing is you got to be putting the good in your head. You center your consciousness, fill yourself with good thoughts, and you do things that cause those around you to also have good thoughts. You smile, you hold doors open for people, you give a random compliment. Hey, you look good in that dress. Hey, I can't help but notice your computer, and, I've been thinking about buying one of them, Do you like it? And then you start talking. Like, I like you. I'm going to pay for your coffee. Have a nice day. I'm going to pay it behind. I'm going to pay it forward. You start doing little things to make people's days in little ways. The people around you end up with a good, brief, happy feeling, a moment of happiness. Who knows, maybe they're going to feel great all day. Do it. It won't give you any direct, tangible benefits, but that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to create the environment that surrounds you to be happy and positive. The environment that surrounds you to be happy and positive. That's what you want. You want to live in a place where everybody is saying good things to everybody else. You have to make a difference in the world that you live in. And that comes from taking active role and participating in the world, in your world. And this participation may not have any kind of obvious goal or obvious reward. But if you do something enough times over a period, it manifests. If every single day when you walk by the store, you just wave and smile, they may not know who the hell you are. You may never ever go into the store, but they say, I don't know who this guy is, but he always smiles and says hi to me. And then one day you're in a store, you see that person and they start talking. Why do you always smile? Why do you always wave, say hi? And you say, well, I really had no need to go into your store. And I feel kind of weird going in the store and browsing your kind of stuff. But I always thought that you were a smiling and sunny person. And I always just wanted to say hi to you because you always make my day. What do you think they would think of that? They think you're a creep? No, I think they would think you're a really nice guy. Maybe a little silly, but a nice guy. I think that it's best to be considered a silly guy or a dunderhead that's really nice and happy, rather than a mean corporate businessman or a mean son of a gun or a nasty, dirty meth biker. I know that these archetypes appeal to certain people. Money, money, money. Oh, adventure. Riding on a motorcycle and all that kind of stuff. These are fantasies that are promoted by Hollywood, actually. The reality is something totally different. The reality is something that's totally different. So, as I've always said, don't base your affirmations or your knowledge of reality upon Hollywood fiction. Especially the Hollywood movies that are coming out today, where everybody is transgender and all this other kind of stuff. Have you noticed that in a lot of the movies here, they've got a diverse population with only one white guy, and that's the person who is the comic relief. It's not reality, guys. And everybody's trying to mold your reality by shaping your actions, and they do that through fear. Don't allow that to happen. Okay. I've been pretty long in the tooth. I'm a little bit tired of repeating myself. The bottom line is very, very, very simple. You must absolutely, if you start feeling nervous about what's going on, World War III, inflation, trade disputes, dementia-ridden president, insane this or crazy that, chill out. Doesn't really matter to you. Control your immediate surroundings. Smile more. Guys, smiling, even if you look ridiculous smiling, smile. They won't forget it. Smile more. Okay? Smile more. You know, on my website, I posted a couple of videos by the Korean J-pop group Twice. And one of the reasons why I like them a lot, aside from them being very pretty young girls, is the fact that they smile. Unlike a lot of the other J-pop where, you know, they're kind of serious because they market to the anguished teenage girl crowd. But this one is always, they're smiling, and they're so sincere smiles. Smiles like that, guys, open doors. Smiles open doors for you. If you're in a job interview, make sure you spend the vast majority of your time with big, sincere smiles. People will say, you know, I know his resume isn't really that great, but I got to tell you, man, I just got a good feeling about this guy. They'll say that. I tell you the truth. They'll say that. They say, I don't know, I just got a good feeling. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. Smile more. Smile more. Say good things. Make the world a better place. You know, I only get a couple of people who view my videos. I only have a handful of people on the website. Those that stick around are truly special people. And the ones that pretty much listen to my advice, which is the hardcore Metallicman followers, they all report that their quality of life has drastically improved by just following just a few of these basic pithy words of advice. Smile more. Be helpful. Participate in the community. Don't be afraid. Don't try to plan things too far ahead. If you see somebody, you say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee. I like you. I don't like coffee. I like ice cream. just be more comfortable in yourself. Eat well, breathe well, be friends to dogs and cats. I talk about this stuff all the time. You think that it's just a dog? These living, breathing creatures, they have a subconscious, they have a non-physical reality that interacts with you and makes yours better. Better. Come on, any cat owners, dog owners will tell you that. That's a truth. So don't be afraid. I'm going to underline my number one statement before I end this. Fear is a control mechanism. Most of the things that we fear are never as bad as we would think they would be. And if you can control your fear, your life will be so much better. It really will. Your life will really be so much better. And that's what I really want for you guys to have. If there's one thing that you can take out of this, whether it's to control your fear, it's to smile. I think I am going to go ahead and maybe make an entire video on smiling. Might be a good idea. In the meantime, guys, have a great day. All right? Be part of a community. Do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember,